I was thinking about creative thinking the other day, and I realized, what if this secret to it wasn't some modern productivity hack, but a timeless framework from, get this, 70 years ago? In this breakdown, we're going to dig into its core mechanics.
But first, have you ever wondered why it seems like just a tiny handful of people are responsible for almost all the really big, groundbreaking ideas? It's a question that's been around forever, and that's exactly the puzzle we're tackling today. Our guide for this is actually a lecture given way back in 1952 by Claude Shannon, the father of information theory. He had this incredible metaphor. He said the human brain is like a piece of uranium. Below a certain critical mass, a new idea just fizzles out. But for some people, if they've reached that mass, a single new thought can trigger a chain reaction, a completely explosive output of innovation. So here's our game plan for unpacking Shannon's framework. We'll start with what he called the creativity curve. Then we'll look at the 3 things you absolutely have to have. From there, we'll dive into his practical toolkit for thinking, see how to apply the methods, and then wrap it all up with some honest limitations and the most important takeaways. Okay, first up, the creativity curve. This was really Shannon's starting point for trying to figure out why creative work isn't spread out evenly among people. So what he observed was this. A really small percentage of people produce a massive, disproportionate share of the important ideas. They operate past what he called the knee of the curve, where things go exponential. So the real question becomes, what does it actually take to get to that part of the curve? To answer that, Shannon identified 3 things that he believed were absolutely fundamental. This is the foundation you need before you can even hope to get to that explosive level of creative output. Now, the first 2 are pretty much what you'd expect. You need training and experience to build a solid knowledge base, and yeah, a certain level of intelligence helps. But Shannon argued that those aren't enough. The 3rd piece of the puzzle, motivation, is the real game changer. It's the engine that really defines a Newton or an Einstein. So what did he even mean by motivation? Well, he broke it down into 3 parts. First, a deep and relentless curiosity. Second, something he called constructive dissatisfaction. That feeling that things are okay, but you just know they could be better. And third, a genuine pleasure in finding the solution, that amazing aha moment. He said it's this combination that really fuels the whole process. Okay, so let's say you've got the prerequisites. How do you actually think more effectively? This brings us to the real heart of Shannon's lecture, a systematic toolkit of mental techniques. The first tool is simplification. Almost every hard problem is cluttered with a ton of irrelevant details. This method is all about stripping away everything that's not absolutely essential until you're left with just the core issue. Once you solve that simple version, then you can start adding the complexity back in. Next up is seeking similar problems. This is where having a lot of experience really pays off. Your brain basically becomes a library of problems you've already solved. So when you face a new problem, P, you can mentally scan that library for a similar one you've dealt with before, a P prime. The whole goal is to find an analogy that links the old solution to your new challenge. The 3rd tool is restatement. It is so easy to get stuck in a mental rut, looking at a problem from just one angle. This technique forces you to state the problem in as many different ways as you possibly can. Change the words, shift the perspective. It's often why a fresh pair of eyes can spot a solution that you've been missing. And once you find a solution, the work isn't quite over. The next tool is generalization. You have to ask, can this specific answer be made bigger? Can it become a more universal principle that solves an entire class of problems? This is how a small, clever fix can evolve into a really foundational concept. Sometimes the gap between the problem and the solution just feels way too big to cross in one go. Structural analysis is the process of building a bridge across that gap. You break the big jump down into a series of smaller, provable, intermediate steps that create a logical path to get to the final answer. And finally, there's inversion. And this one might be the most counterintuitive of them all. If you just can't get from the problem to the solution, you flip it on its head. You assume the solution is true and you work backward to see what must have been true to get you there. These tools sound pretty elegant in theory, right? But what do they look like in practice? Let's run through a quick demo of 2 of the most powerful ones. Okay, first, structural analysis. Remember, instead of trying to make one giant leap from the problem to the solution, you just build a bridge of smaller, manageable steps. This shows that logical progression, just moving step by step until you reach a proven answer. All right, now for inversion. Imagine you're here, at the problem, P, and you need to get all the way over to the solution, S. But the path is a total mystery. You are completely and utterly stuck. So you give your brain a new command.
invert.
And just like that, you have a brand new and often much easier problem to solve. Instead of trying to force your way forward, you start at your desired solution, S, and work your way back to your starting point, P. And mapping that route backward often reveals the exact path you were missing the whole time.
Now, as powerful as this framework is, it's really important that we look at it with a modern lens. So let's talk about the honest limitations and distill the most practical takeaways for us today.
First, we have to remember the context here. This lecture was from 1952, given to mathematicians and engineers at Bell Labs. So these methods are really tailored for logical, well-defined problems. And, as Shannon himself pointed out, that all-important prerequisite, motivation, is incredibly complex and not something you can really teach.
But even with those limitations, the toolkit itself is still so useful. So here are 4 key methods you can apply immediately. 1. Simplify down to the essential core. 2. When you're stuck, invert the problem. 3. Restate it from a totally fresh angle. And 4. Break down the path into smaller, doable steps.
Which really just leaves one final question. Which tool will you use first? Note, this video is for reference only. Take this further, I'm genuinely excited to see what you discover. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Until next time.